This is BrianVee at Whywework, and I have the great pleasure of meeting Robert Bear. Good day, fine sir.
Hello, Brian. Thank you for inviting me.
I mean, anyone that's watching this, maybe if you're listening to this, you may not know, but the beautiful stained glass that he has behind him. You don't see many people with that, and it is a sight for not sore eyes, but beautiful eyes. It's really nice. Where did you get that?
I won it at an auction. In fact, I'll give you the 30-second version
Yeah.
because you don't want me blathering on and on.
No, you
All
go
right.
ahead.
I had a window that faced the street of my house, and we always had it covered. We saw this at an auction place, and my wife says, yeah, go ahead and bid up to $250, right? So they start the auction, and the auctioneer talks it up, and it's one of the first ones. And I mean, before I knew it, the bid was over $500. And before I even put my paddle up at 550, I look at my wife. She looks at me. I couldn't read her voice. I mean, and so somebody said 600. I put 650. and then we won it. And then I thought I was going to get smacked or hit. And she was like, no, I was going to grab that paddle, but we wanted it. And I was like, so yeah, I think we thought it was going to be 250. It was 750. But sometimes you pay more for life for things you want, but you get what you want. That's sort of my philosophy. The first half of my life, I was like always trying to, if there were two options, I'd take the cheaper, less expensive option. And then at some point, I started buying the more expensive option. Why not? You spend a little bit more, but you don't have to wonder what would have happened if I had spent more money.
I would like to know about the first half of your life, Robert. What was your first job? So maybe a little intro, but not so much of what you're doing now. We'll get into that in a little bit, but a little intro where you're coming from and what was your first job as a kid, maybe?
First paying job, yeah. I was as a kid. I had a paper route. I helped my brother, and then I got my own paper route. I paid $30 a month to get up every morning at the crack of dawn. And I don't know. I look back now, and I'm thinking, man, those are some lousy wages.
How old were you then for your
10?
first paying job?
I think no, I must have been like maybe 11 or 12, somewhere around there.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
And what was your motivation to get that job?
Oh, I wanted to make money, but I think it taught me the value of the dollar, that it didn't go very far when you had a paper route that didn't pay much.
Was there a motivation to get you out of the house? Like a family member, like, okay, Robert, you're spending all of our money, or you're like, no, I want to buy something. I want something. And I know if I put some time in, this is how to get it.
I think that is a good question. And a lot of times when people say that's a good question, they're stalling, right? But it is a good question. And I never really thought about it until you just brought it up. I don't know why I wanted to make money. I guess I just wanted my own money to spend. My parents, they didn't give me an allowance. And, it was weird because when I was a kid, like a candy bar was a dime. So, money went pretty far. You could buy candy for, two. There's candy that was like $2 for a penny, the Jolly Ranchers. I mean, obviously things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I just wanted my own money.
Where did that lead into? So you had that for a little bit, a couple of years?
Yeah, I don't think it led anywhere. Just kind of quit it after I got tired of getting up early in the morning. And I didn't work again till I was like 16 in high school and got my first job like many people at McDonald's.
Did you?
Yeah, tough. $3.35 an hour and they worked you, it's like, again, it's like, wow. And what I found is like a lot of times that you go to a higher paying job, you actually don't work as hard, but fast food, people earn their money.
How would you say the process of McDonald's was at that time? But did it give you a respect, maybe some discipline and understanding how there's a process to things versus a paper route where you got this house, that house, and the other house, and you just throw it off and basically you're done. But McDonald's is a lot more structured and giving you a little bit more discipline in your life. Did you find that was the case?
That's really smart to ask me. I've never really thought about it, and maybe I should, because you're right. Like one, I was on my own doing my own thing, and the other one, you're sort of micromanaged. But I respected McDonald's, what they did, and they tried me in different areas, and I didn't really. I think they try to match you up with the right position, because I was always an imaginative, daydreaming kind of person, but I did run the drive-through and a little bit of the cashier, but my thing was the McNuggets, and I was terrible because I think they charged us for the food, but man, I would eat like 20 McNuggets with nobody looking. I'd pull it in, I'd be burning my fingers and everything. I was, but no, they were good. And I did that until I got a different job at a gas station. Believe it or not, I actually did a full service gas station. I checked oil and checked the water and the radiator level and pumped up the tires and pumped their gas. And boy, you haven't seen those things in like 40 years here in America.
I'm from Canada and you don't see them, and I'm living in Korea. And a couple of years ago, it's becoming more self now, right? Because I think they're realizing they can save some money. But you could get your car checked out, actually you go through a car wash, they'll wipe your car down for no extra charge, like just pure 100% service for just getting gas. That's how it used to be. Now it's starting to wane away from that. But how about at McDonald's? Like, for McDonald's, people that work at McDonald's, and this podcast, as you were asking before, is to encourage people in their work. And McDonald's is often used, I think, slandered in some sort of way. So, okay, well, you can always get a job at McDonald's. Or, I had a job at McDonald's and it was really good. But it's always the constant, right? It's through this whole, for many years, McDonald's has been the mainstay of younger children getting a job. How do you feel that a job like McDonald's is good for someone to start, or even if they're in hard times, to go into that just to get their feet on the ground and maybe get some of that structure?
Oh, I think it's a great place to start because you work hard and you you get paid little. So at least that's how I remember it, and it encouraged me to go out and get another job. Now, some people stay at a job because they don't really want to go apply for another job because they're insecure, or that, I mean, that's maybe just not their personality to do so. But I was looking at those paychecks and going, wow. I mean, and then my buddies were saying, hey, you can make a lot more money just sitting in a you know sitting in a booth collecting money while people get gas, or hey, there's a job there. It was really pretty much next door. So I think I just walked over there one day when I saw the help wanted sign, and I think I recognized that, man, this is some really hard work for some really low pay. And that was at that time. And I wanted to make more money. So I went from like $3.35 an hour to $5.75 an hour. So, I mean, it was significant. And then it was just a different world. I didn't mind wearing the outfit, the McDonald's outfit,
Yeah.
and taking the orders or anything, but it felt like I was it was an introductory job. I think you're not supposed to stay in jobs like that. It's like, welcome to the world. It's hard, but maybe you should
grinding your gears.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't stay here forever and whatever. So that's kind of my reaction or my thought on it at the time.
And after the gas station, what did you do? Did that bring you up, graduating from high school, going in?
No, that was in high school. My buddy, he worked at a self-service gas station right across the street, and for $7 an hour, I could sit in a booth and work graveyard, and I did that. And so I went from full service making $5.75 to $7. I'm just moving up. My checks are getting bigger, and
Work's getting easier.
Well,
to an
was
extent,
okay.
right?
Yeah, they would just, there'd be a big rush right as I got there till about like maybe you'd have little rushes before 2 o'clock before the bars closed, and then it'd be like dead after between like 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I would be so tired I'd turn the lights off and fall asleep, and then I'd wake up, turn the lights back on. It was all right. As I did that for 6 months, but I didn't really care for graveyard. It's hard to sleep when people are awake, and you feel like you're missing life. That's how I felt. But some people love graveyard. We're all different people. So
you mentioned that you're creative, so that must have started to crush your soul, right? Like, just to have to sit and put in the
You know,
hours.
back then I was going to high school and I was working, so it didn't really bother me. But
Yeah.
you know, once I've graduated college, you know, I worked for 9 years for Frito-Lay, and that was it was a great, you know, they paid really really well. I mean, for where I was living and the job opportunities, but you worked really really hard. You did pretty much the same thing, and that was like you said, a little soul crushing. And that's one of the reasons that it was inspired me to uh, to try to invent, and that's how I got down into the world of inventing.
You mentioned
Because
college. Did you work at Frito-Lay after college?
oh yeah, like I mean, I'm 52. I did a huge leap from uh, from working at a gas station to Frito-Lay. I mean, the gas station was in the 80s, and
What
Frito-Lay, I didn't start there till 2007 or something. But
what did you take in college?
I was a business major, which
Okay.
I thought made sense. And this is what I believe. I believe it to my core. Is I used to see these signs, follow your bliss, and, you know, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life and things like that. And man, they are true. They are so true. Because you don't, you know, if you work and then you're just like, you know, but if it's something you love, it's not really work. Yeah, I could do 10 hours of my podcast and editing and this and that, and it's feels like it's 20 minutes. I don't even mind. It could be 90 degrees or 100 degrees, and I'll just sit there sweating and listening and whatever. It doesn't bother me because it's my passion. It's what I love. But if I'm doing something I don't like, it's, you know, it's like I'm picking strawberries or something, you know. It's like, you know, after like 10 minutes, you're like, this isn't any fun. And, you know, life is short, so you shouldn't do jobs that you hate. I'm the host of the Invention Stories podcast, and we share the story the inventor goes on. Since
So
having the idea,
how did you, before you say that about the podcast, of how
oh,
did you, after Frito-Lay, how did you start to veer towards inventions and what you got? I mean, with creativity, being a creative man yourself, obviously there was something all along the way, but where did you get steered into that direction?
well, what
Potato potato
I always had.
chips. Sorry, potato chips are not that creative. I remember meeting a guy who said, if you ever work at Frito-Lay, you'll never want to eat a potato chip, or a cheesy in particular, like those cheese balls again. And I was like, oh, okay.
You know, I don't have a problem with the products. I still eat
Yeah.
them, and I used
Oh
to eat them
yeah.
all the time. So I kind of disagree with them, but they were very good to me and my family. They do, and I actually get a pension. It's not huge because I only worked there for 9 years, but I I was just really bored because the job is mindless. You just go from one stop to the next and you load the chips up. And I mean, I actually embraced the time there are an actual problem, because then you'd be like, oh, I get
Oh,
to
something
find a
new.
solution for that. Let me see if I can get some extra space, or, you know, out of this. And so that was the only time I'd wake up, is when there was a problem. I mean, some people freak out when there's a problem. Me, I was like, oh wow, really? That's cool. But it did. It's drained me. I worked, you know, I was gone 60, 65 hours a week between the travel time and the job. But when I was home, I wanted to do something different. I'd always imagined, I had an idea for an invention for your glasses. I didn't know why they had to have the frames the way they are, and why couldn't you, you know, switch out the frames and everything. And so, you know, everything in my life, I just never did it, but I always had the idea ever since I was a kid. And so I started to do it. I created a prototype, and then I had an engineering firm even make it better. But when I did the background check, I found like there was 4 other
Similar
ideas very
products.
similar to
Yeah.
mine, right? And I'm like wondering why they weren't on the market. And then I started reading this book called the Inventor's Bible, and like on one of the pages it said less than 2% of all inventions, you know, make money. So I started thinking, well, that's a real problem. And I was wondering why that was. And so I thought, you know, why don't I think the best idea, or the best way to learn about inventing, is to learn the stories of inventors who have gone and seen what they've done that they endorse, and see what they think is a waste of their time. And they
So
didn't really have that on the web.
So with your story, what did you learn from your story so that you could bring that personally into your podcast? That journey of your invention, you're finding it elsewhere and you felt probably disappointed because you put a lot of effort into it. What was the capstone? What was your new slogan of life in regards to invention that you brought into the podcast that you do now?
I think that it was the light bulb moment or
Yeah.
the lightning strike was that if less than 2% of people are actually successful with their inventions, then the entire invention process is broken. So instead of trying to be somebody who invents, why don't I try to fix the invention process? And if you pull it back a little bit, and this may sound grandiose or whatever, but everything in life that you look around seems to be a problem. And you can be one of those people who just whines and complains about a problem, but the inventors or scientists or the entrepreneurs, they look at the problem and they see the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody invents something, it's because they're trying to solve a problem that they think is better than what exists. And they're kind of crazy because you have less than 2% chance of being success, but every one of them believes they're one of those 2%. I don't know if it's 2% success rate, but it's very
Mm-hmm.
low.
Very low.
And that was back then. So I know there's a lot of things to help you now to change things, but
Did
my
you
goal,
come up
my
with
goal
any?
is to help
Yeah,
them.
go ahead.
No, my goal was to help, to help the inventor, and I thought if I could do that and make money, then somebody else could see that, wow, I could make money by helping the inventor too. And that's what we should strive to do. That's what I believe, because many people have a crappy job, a job that they hate, and that's gotta like wear on their psyche. They got to bring it home. They got to take it out on their dog or their kids or their wives, I mean, I would hate to have you know, I just would hate to have a dad who hated his job. My dad liked his job. He worked for himself. So, but I think that everybody who has got a crappy job probably has an idea for an invention. And what are they going to do? Are they going to do anything about it? Or is it going to be one of those things that haunts them while they're laying there on their deathbed? Why didn't I do this? Or later on, see in the marketplace, you see somebody else is sitting there. I thought of that. Truly, I was somebody who believed in cell phones as a kid. I did, but I thought that it would connect to your home phone. I thought it worked like a walkie-talkie.
Mm-hmm.
I never dreamed it would be this amazing computer. Everything all. I didn't go that far, but yeah.
Did you invent anything else or come up with? I mean, you probably did, but some other ideas besides your glasses?
I'm working on one right now, and what I've learned from interviewing, probably almost 500 or around 500 inventors in my life is that I really don't like the patent process. I don't believe in patenting. I just don't. I'm either if I'm gonna do it, either I'm gonna bring it to the market or I'm gonna try to license it. And if I try to license it, what I'm gonna end up doing is getting a provisional patent, which costs about $75. And then just approaching, write my sell sheet. I have a lot of connections now, and go to the people who would potentially be licensors, or am I the licensor? Yeah, the licensee, and see if they would, they like to do it. Otherwise, I think that I would just try to use a first to market strategy, because I've heard too many stories of people who have patents and then somebody infringes on it. What are you going to do? You going to sue them? Yeah. You got that much money to sue them with? I mean, it's reality. Just because you have a patent doesn't mean some big corporation or
what do you think of a show like Shark Tank? Do you find that's beneficial for people who are inventing things, or do you think they're kind of going the wrong route, trying to get money? And
I think I think it has a lot of great. I think everything about, well, not everything about it is very beneficial and very helpful in so many different ways, but mostly they're always harping on the numbers. What are your numbers? What's the cost of goods to purchase this? What are you selling it for? What's the margins? What's your acquisition cost of customers? And if you don't know these things, since they ask that in just about every episode, maybe it's something you should think about. Can I do it? Can I create and sell this product and actually make money? And how am I going to grow the business? And I think it inspires people. I think it inspires people to try. I've talked to a number of people who've been on the show, and but it's not the end all. But I think there's a lot of great programs out there. I like The Profit. There's
that was in the back of my mind. I was going to mention it, but I didn't know.
I like that even more. I get
So
a
do
little
I.
tired of the Shark Tank people. They're kind of obnoxious. They're just a little too in love with themselves. But more power to them. They're successful. They can do it. Remember when Bill Gates got accused of unfair business practices because he was the richest, most powerful person in the world? But I mean, how can you blame somebody who's the richest, most powerful guy in the world, and from doing it? And I don't know. It's I like the show. I think it has its limitations, but it's good entertainment. It's a little silly, but there's good, valuable information to be found.
So, are you working full time on your podcast?
Well, it depends on what you mean by working. I get offered money, or I've been offered money several times to partner with people and businesses to have them sponsor us. And I could have sponsorship anytime that I want because of the downloads that we get, but I don't really need the money, and I don't want to. My mom died like 3 months ago. Okay. I'm just putting this out there. And
my mom did too 3 months ago, I think. Yeah.
And it blows, and one of the things I like is this kind of little world of what I do, and talking to inventors. It's this beautiful spot because these people take their idea and they're trying to turn it into reality. They're sharing with you that their dreams, and a lot of them are, have some success, and you're like, yeah, it's so wonderful. Because when you look on your phone or you look on the news, it's all garbage. And I know it's not that, but that's what they feature because that's what sells.
Yeah.
I think the most of the time there's not a whole lot going on, but if it bleeds, it leads, right? And so,
when did you start your podcast?
September of 2017.
What did your mom think of your podcast?
She enjoyed it. She liked me to be happy. And so, yeah. So actually, when my mom died, I was just my mom was awesome. I loved her, and so it was pretty shattering. And I was just kind of like a shell, just sitting there for like the longest time. And so talking to inventors it's like my happy place. I go, and so like, yeah, I want to protect it. And I think I think there are forces out there that, I don't know, they want to ruin it. They want to turn it into radio. They want to put an ad before and in the middle and at the end. And I'm like, you know what? I don't. I think what inventors do is like the most wonderful thing. We put statues to musicians and entertainers, and what do? They distract from the problems of society. Inventors trying to solve the problems of society, and they should have the ones that have the statues made to them. And I mean, I love the toilet. Isn't the toilet awesome? Hell, without the toilet, without indoor plumbing, life would suck.
Have you ever been to Asia?
I haven't.
In Korea, they have a lot of places still do. The toilet is just a hole in the ground now they put porcelain with a little front. I don't know what the purpose of, but it's not a toilet. So yes, toilets.
I think it's the greatest invention of mankind. Yeah. And then I know it's like from the Roman time or something, but I just, those are the kinds of things that we need to have the people, the young people look up to it, admire, and want to become, but they want to be the athletes because they're getting paid $20 million a year to go play a game. Who cares who wins and loses? I'm not knocking it. Okay. I am knocking it, but it's not, I don't know. It's not, I just feel like the inventor, they're mocked. They're just taken advantage of. There's so many scam companies, and we all know who they are, and they prey on these people. And these people are trying to solve problems. In the short run, they're not only they search, and they're trying to make their dream come true, which is wonderful to be engaged in anything. but they're contributing to the economy. They're buying local products, you know, before they mass manufacture and have them come from Asia or Mexico or whatever. But I think the effect of being engaged, just doing something that you love, has such a profound effect, because everybody who interacts with them thinks, you know, why is that guy why is he so happy? Why is BrianVee doing, you know, why does he seem so happy? Well, you know what? He's following his passion. He's doing what he loves. He's interviewing people, and that's great. Because, you know, we think of people who don't make success in a monetary way by their invention as failures, and we shouldn't, because maybe that father or that mother is doing that with it, and his son or daughter's watching, or maybe they're doing it together, and that's the best time in their lives, you know? I mean, it's all about hope and optimism when you're trying to turn your dream into reality. I mean, reality kind of slaps you in the face sometimes while you're doing it, and it costs money. But, you know, it's hard to put a price on like being in love with what you're doing.
You're talking right at me, because as I said, 3 months ago or 4 months ago, my mom died, and she was a very hard worker. And this idea was in the back of my mind of starting. So I started it on the precipice, on the point that my mom was a hard worker, and I want, like, not to toot my own horn, but you want to elevate inventors, and I want to elevate workers, because workers are the backbone of our society, no matter the job, no matter what culture you come from, you know. And it was based on, and I love my little rectangle here, this little time. I mean, if you look an inch below, there's tape holding this background up. But it's just my little world. I don't have stained glass windows, but I have a $10 background. And it is the idea of following something that you like. I push back a little bit. I think some people have to work a job that may not be the most pleasurable, but they can find some pleasure outside in a hobby or something else, but find some sort of balance is what I find, which is working for most people. But if someone can, like you, find something that you're absolutely passionate about, I'm finding this passion in this, then that's great. So I see that in my life, what you're doing. So I appreciate what you're touting, what you're encouraging people on how to live, because life is short.
Yeah. And for me, you know, I'm 52, and, you know, I've been an underachieving slacker my whole life. I've, you know, I don't have anything to just, you know, say, look at this, I had some success. And this is the first time in my life, you know, the podcast is, and I think part of it is we've got a great name. It's called Invention Stories. I own the website, inventionstories.com.
So how does that work? So if someone
Stories podcast. Well, if you're scrolling through it, let's say you're looking for a new podcast to look for, to listen to, and you come across Invention Stories, you know exactly what it's about. Oh man, Invention Stories? Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm going to check it out. You know, so I get a lot of people who check it out. And then, you know, the guests, if I don't dominate, like I'm trying to dominate, I guess, the conversation.
No.
But
So if
I let them
wants to get on your show, what type of people, what are they doing? What do they want to get out of being on your show with their invention story?
Oh, they just want to share it. You know, most of them would like free publicity for their products they've made. Or right now, I've just started season 2, and where actually it's about licensing. And I'm working with the InventRight and students, and people love InventRight, and maybe you don't know what they're about, but they're licensing, and I really like licensing. I wanted to learn more about it, and I'm taking the time now to learn about licensing. You get an idea, you get yourself a provisional patent, and then you have a year to try to get somebody to, you know, buy into it and want to like manufacture it and take it from them, and see if you can work a deal with them. And I'm fascinated by it. I think it's a smarter way to go than just, you know, manufacturing your idea, because you manufacture your ideas, you know, it costs a lot of money, and, you know, it doesn't really seem to cost a whole lot of money to go this route from what I've been learning so far. And it's, you know, you're using people who already do it, who have already got distribution, who already know where to manufacture it, and it seems smart. I mean, it's sad that it's in a way that is so popular now, because it tells you that there's something wrong with the patent process. That's what I think.
What was one of the greatest successes that you've heard of through your Invention Stories program?
I guess that you mean the inventors that I've interviewed, and it depends on you how you define success.
Well, how do you define it, and what was that
You know,
guest
I
like?
always my favorite episode well, my favorite episode was the first, and it was with Forbes Riley. She's a spokesperson, and I think it's what I really loved about her. She wasn't an inventor, but what she does is she actually, is big infomercial successful person, has brought over $2 billion to the market and whatever. And so I was able to start with her, and she's like, all the inventors need to think about this. This is when you sell it. Where are you going to sell it? How are you going to sell it to? And whatever. And they don't. And, everybody has an idea and think they can turn it into an idea. It's like me going into a mechanic shop and looking at a car and saying I can be a mechanic because I've seen cars and whatever, but there's a lot to it. And I think she was great because, she was so prepared, and there were just like so many light bulb moments. But I think one of my favorites, actual inventors that's had a lot of success is Rusty Coy Jones, and she's battling, but because it's both a personal thing and business thing, she battles with both Parkinson's disease and cancer, and she invented this Relialight. And what it is it's a light that it has a battery in it so that when the power goes off, you still have light, and it's for nice lights inside, and you can plug in your phone and whatever. And she was taking care of her dad, but I think and she's had huge successes. It's, sold in a lot of places, and I believe now she's licensed it out. And makes her story wonderful in so many different ways is that if I had cancer, if I had Parkinson's disease, I had one of the two, I'd probably be crawled up in a ball in the corner cursing God, or maybe sucking up to God. So, thinking I'm going to die or something. But I don't know if I'd sit there still trying to make the most out of the world. You know what I mean? But she does. And I mean, it's such an inspiration. Like, let's say you and I listen to, or somebody's got an idea and listens to it, and they're always using excuses. Well, I don't have any time or this or that. Wow, this woman who's got Parkinson's disease and cancer can do it, but you can't. I mean, what's your excuse? Just,
I find the few that I've done that's, with the idea of work, is these people have their own motivations for doing so, and it encourages me to keep working. Right. So you hear someone like that you're interviewing, like, yeah. And that's what your listeners are probably getting from that as well.
And it's weird because I've talked to a lot of over the years, I've talked to a lot of CEOs and presidents. I'm not trying to put myself up, but there are a lot of times they're texting me or emailing me, and it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. I'm thinking, you're worth $20 to $30 million. Why are you texting me right now? And it's weird. And then, it just sort of dawns on you. It's because they love it. They can't even turn it off, and I mean, you see these guys who are worth all this money, the Amazon guy. I mean, he couldn't even spend his money if he tried, and yet he still wants to keep going. They just love what they do. And that falling in love with what you do is just, the money's just, I don't know, maybe for some people it's scorecard, but I think it's so secondary to loving and having passion for what you do. It's, like I said, for me, I don't mind putting in the hours.
Robert, what's the most difficult thing about, even though you love it, you don't mind putting in the hours, what's the most difficult aspect of not your work, your job, but the thing that you do?
It's this is really somebody sits there and in an interview, and they say, hey, what do you say is, you want to get this job, and then you say, well, what is it that you don't like to do or whatever? What's the hardest part for you? And I used to say something like, I'm a little bit too meticulous, which is really like a backwards compliment. And that's what I'm going to give you here. We get so many requests from inventors. I don't know, I'm on some sort of list as well, because I get a lot of administrative assistants and PR people, and they're contacting me and saying that they want me to interview their president. And I'm like, but he didn't even invent anything. And they try to because any entrepreneur can make a case for inventing, because we started this business and this is all from scratch and whatever. Dude, I have so many people waiting to be invented, actual inventors waiting, or it's hard for somebody to, it's hard for me to say no to somebody. I mean, last I checked, we had over 80 people. I think it's over 100 that want to be interviewed, and we have things that we want to do in the next 2 years. And then I'm like, it's hard to tell somebody, hey, can you wait 3 years? I mean, I don't, like I said before, the reason I'm talking to you is because I know what it's like to reach out. And I also have told people, when my mom passed, somebody asked me to be interviewed, and I was like, I just don't really, I gave him a lot of excuses, and he seemed like he got mad. And I was like, look, I didn't want to say this, but my mom died. I just don't feel like talking. And so, it's, but since then, I felt really bad about that. And so anytime anybody, whether they're a new podcaster or old podcaster, and it's not because I think you're going to help me with our numbers or whatever, but it's because I've been there. I was that guy who, I would send, before I started doing the podcast, I used to actually I would interview people. Let me take a step back. I started by collecting all the stories, and I put them on from the About Us that I could possibly find on our website, and I ran out of those. Then I would find like 20 inventors, and I would email them asking them to write their story. And they'd send them to me. Out of 20, maybe 2 or 3 would say yes, and maybe 1 would actually do it. And then finally, I said, I'm just what I'm going to do is I'm going to contact these people, and I'm going to ask them if I can interview them over the phone, and I would record them. And then I would type it out, and I don't like to type. That's like homework, right?
That's like your walkie-talkie telephone idea. It was good.
I did. It did. I would spend hours like this. I mean, I have over 100 recordings from like 2014, 15, and 16. But yeah, I never forget that kind of where we started, and it's just kind of blown up. And yeah, I think to answer your question, the hardest part is to tell people like, hey, I even know the other people who do something similar to our podcast, and I'll actually say, hey, look, they're looking for people. I'd be happy to introduce you to them. And even then I've had a few people flip out on me. I don't like people flipping out on me for any reason. I don't think anybody does. Maybe some people do. I always wonder about the guy who works in lost luggage, man. Like, what? You're mad? You mean you're not happy we lost your luggage? Oh, I'm an a-hole, huh? All right. Okay. Nobody's ever called me that before.
Heard that one before. That's original. They learn many languages there. So even though, I mean, and I appreciate your time, right? Like, I hope I'll not forget at the end to thank you again, but hearing more about you, understanding how much of a time restraint you're on, I appreciate you doing that. I hope it's not out of guilt, but out of as you said, understanding where people come from and trying not to say no. But how do you say no? How do you pick? Is it just first come, first serve? You got a picking process, you got a filtering thing. How do you gently say, listen, if you're willing to wait 4 years, then I'll see you then?
Yeah. No, I'm saying, we're doing these mini series right now, and I'll put you on the list. I don't tell them what number they're on the list, but it's not going to be for a while. And that's pretty much it. But generally I try to say, hey, I know these other podcasts, and see if they're okay with that. And that's kind of my process. But as far as actually what I do from the point of, interviewing people and editing, and some people hate editing in the podcasting world. They're like, I need to have somebody edit. I hate it. I'm burning out. If you're burning out, you need to do something else. I actually think that everything from interviewing to editing to putting together the post to sharing it on social media, every part of that I love doing. There's nothing I don't. In fact, when it's like now this is going to sound really obnoxious, Brian, but I feel like I'm creating a piece of art. And I mean, I don't know if this will last while I'm gone, but I mean, I'm sharing somebody's dream, and I want it to be as beautiful as possible. I want it to inspire people. I want the sound to be excellent. I don't want to hear a or a gasp or a ch or, I take out the knows. How many times do you hear, to tell you the truth? Yeah.
You really edit it down, eh?
That's a
I
good
enjoyed
question.
it.
I edit me a lot too, because less of me is better. More of them is, well, I don't want to listen to this this clown talking. That's me. I'm talking about myself. God, I'm blathering like an idiot. I got to rewrite, whatever. But when it's all done, I'm done, and I put it out there.
Sorry.
Like, yeah, and it's like closure, and it's like, okay, now let's get on to the next one. Let's have some more fun. Yeah, it's just a blast. That's why I know that it's like kind of what I'm supposed to do, because I love it so much.
What is it you love the most about it? What
I think it's the connection with the people, it's just like the actual act of talking to somebody and getting to know them. They talk to me, and like talking to you right now, it's like, yeah, Brian, I would never talk to you in real life. Only not. I mean, guys don't meet guys and,
Definitely not,
become friends and, and, but if this were my podcast, you'd be telling me how you turn your dream into reality. And they're so excited. I mean, the passion just comes through just comes through the speakers. There's not a bad episode. I read stuff on these, new podcasts, and they're saying, just put something out there. Don't, whatever, you'll get better over time. I said, no, make your first one awesome and try to make everyone better after that. You will get better over time. And, I am old school. I feel like I'm quoting my dad, going down the pike or something, and then I'm like, it takes time. Quality takes time. And I don't want to, again, I don't want to sound obnoxious, but everything that's quantifiable is how this world works. Unfortunately, it doesn't do anything for me. I've been in the Frito business for 9 years. It burned me out. Hey, I'm hitting plan. Okay, how much you gonna be planned by? I'm gonna do by this. Can't you do more? What are you gonna do next week? I mean, there was no spiking the football. It was never enough. And I didn't grow up with parents who pushed me like that. There was never enough. So sales or numbers or downloads, they don't mean anything to me. And you could think, he's full of it. They don't. They just don't. So. Yeah, I just want to create these beautiful things, because we live in a world that, I don't know, with problems that need solutions, and inventors they need help becoming more successful. They have, and there's a lot of great things that have popped up right now. Crowdfunding, obviously, but I think one of the great things is Fiverr. You familiar with Fiverr?
I am not.
Okay. Essentially, it's an online marketplace where people can create logos, or you can have a variety of things, and it's really taken off. I don't know how things are there, but everything's kind of shut down here in the United States right now. And a lot of people aren't working, and, you can actually make money doing it online. It's called Fiverr. And I use it for my logo. I just changed my logo. But anytime I need help with my website, I'm not that great with a website. I use, I do my own web stuff, but if something doesn't work right, all of a sudden, then I got to contact somebody, and I can pick who I want. I can pick a country that, I know that's struggling, that's that. And I think that's wonderful. Like, I'll find something, I don't want to knock Pakistan, but I know that they could use help, or Afghanistan. And I'll find somebody from Afghanistan or Pakistan and say, hey, this is the problem I have. And they're like, they give me a price, and I have them do it. And I think that's better, because I've had people that I've given money to who have needed help, like family members, and you give somebody money, and it just really backfires every time. It's like they feel like you're looking down or resenting them or something. But I suppose if I said, hey, can you do something for me and as a job, then they would feel much better about receiving that money. And so, I think something like that is really great. It's like you can. Hopefully it'll expand to every area where there's places in Africa where you have people, that Fiverr has it. And I like it. I'm like, hey, I mean, first of all, I'm getting a great deal. And then, you never know the effect that has. And so I liked it. another thing is you can use a little avatar. And so you can be whoever you want with whatever name. And, maybe in real life, people would judge you if you go in based on their prejudices or whatever, oh, he's a, or religion or what you look like or whatever. But when you do it virtually or whatever, it could be anybody you don't even know. And so, in a lot of ways, I think I just think it's really great. I don't know. I do know. I don't know why people say I don't know, because that's another thing that people say that I edit out. I don't know.
I won't edit it out. You're being honest. Robert, how do you rest? What do you do in rest? What is your rest? How do you take a break?
Oh, I can take a break anytime I want. And,
what does a break look like for you?
I think I watch TV. I'm a TV watcher. I don't know. Do you have YouTube out there? I love YouTube. I don't want to sound like a clown. I'm a regular guy. This is the truth, Brian. I got a brother who's a mentally gifted minor, right? And which is gifted and talented. He had an IQ of 130 or more, right? Allegedly, right? He was smart. And so they took me out of class and they did a test on me. And after the test was done, I don't know how long, it seemed like forever and whatever. They said I wasn't smart enough to be in that group. And I was like, wow, man, what a drag. It's like, well, and that could crush somebody. I don't know. Yeah. People could respond differently, but I'm like, you didn't really measure my creativity or my drive or whatever. So I don't know. I just think that's like an asset. I'm just a regular guy. I'm somewhere in smart to a little bit extra smart, but I'm not like some genius. How everybody thinks they're like really, really smart? They're not. I mean, somebody's got to be. And then, like, the people who are the dumbest are the ones who are telling you how smart they are. Look, if you're telling me how smart you are, I'm staying away from you because I know you're not smart. It's like somebody else says you're smart. Okay. You don't have to tell me you're smart. I can tell you're smart. I know you're smart, Brian. I can tell. You got a good educational background too. And
it's good. I mean, you're saying regular guy, but it's good for people to know, like, okay, this guy is busy, extremely busy, but he likes to just to sit down and watch some TV or watch some YouTube, and that's rest for you.
Yeah, I work on my house. I walk my dog. I do. I watch Netflix. I watch HBO. It came with my phone, and this is the golden age of TV. Everything's great now, man. I grew up and there was 6 channels and 3 of them didn't come in very well. And a lot of them had like 24 episode shows. In fact, that was one of the reasons it inspired me to do a short 8 to 10 episode mini series, is because I noticed that's the trend today. They're not even, half-hour episodes on YouTube. You can make them however long you want. And so I recognize the attention spans pretty short, so I try to keep my episodes between 20 and 25 minutes.
I need to learn from your wisdom.
And if I do something that's 40 minutes or 50 minutes, I do it in 2 parts.
How has work brought you through life? How can you look back and see what you're doing to gas station, McDonald's? How has work been a constant in your life and helped you develop?
I think I've always been out of step. I think I did everything wrong. I do. I did the wrong thing. I did the thing that I thought was smart at the time, or, I felt comfortable with. I mean, I should have, like, I was a business major in college. God, I don't know. What was your degree in, Brian?
First computer science at 96, but then I switched to business.
All right. Well, business is boring. It is. It's boring. I went to college and these guys were political science majors and, liberal arts majors. They were having a great time. You know what we did in class today? Yeah, I did math. But I thought it was practical. Mm-hmm. Don't do anything practical. That's why I say when somebody starts a podcast, don't do something that's practical or sounds smart. I'm going to interview and, podcasters, that way the podcasters can tell everybody else that, then I'll get the numbers up and stuff. And I'm like, nah, man, do what you love, because that'll get you through every day, man. And I never did that. And so I never was really successful. Always been
the work. But how?
An underachiever.
did the work help you through life? Do you find that, because some people have an attitude, you're in the States, I'm from Canada, is I don't need to work, especially younger people, right? I think as you get older, you realize some responsibilities that you have in life, that you have to do some things. But younger people, some tend to think that it's not so important. I don't need work. I don't need it to live. I don't need money. I can just get it from mom and dad.
Wow. You got a different mom and dad than I had. No, I've been working since I was 16.
Or
Actually, I moved out on my own when I was 16, so
sorry,
I've always paid my own way.
Now people, it's the government. Mom and dad is the government.
Okay. Well, for me, and I actually saved. I was a finance major, and I tried to save 20 cents out of every dollar. A lot of people say save 10 cents out of every dollar. So try to save 20 cents. I used to put a lot into my 401k because I made so much more than I needed, and I live within my means. And now I'm 52. I don't need to work right now. I'm not saying I'm ready to retire. I just don't have to work. And this, with the coronavirus, this keeps me safe. I don't want to get sick. I don't like being sick. You ever notice when you're sick, all you want to do is not be sick? I don't care that it doesn't kill you. I just don't want to get sick. I like to feel good and breathe, and I'm a fan, like a little bit spoiled. I had a pool when I was a kid, and if you have two older brothers, one of them's gonna, at least at some point, hold you underwater as you're coming up, right? So not being able to breathe, that's a messed up thing. And last year I was weed eating, and I was kicking up a lot of dust, and for whatever reason I didn't wear a mask because I'm trying to be macho or whatever, and I kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and so finally I was trying to watch a movie in a movie theater with throat thing, lozenges and soda, and I still couldn't stop, and I said, take me to the medical place, and they gave me a couple of shots, and it kind of went away. But I always sort of wonder, that was only last year, are my lungs, have they been, I don't know what the effects are of that. And so I'm going to act like I'm high risk, and I don't want to get sick. I don't want to have what people have, and I don't want to spread it. I go shopping when people aren't there, and I try to stay away from people, a lot of these idiots out here, they just want to stick their head in the sand. And I always said, what are you going to do when you die and you go to heaven, and maybe St. Peter's or God's at the gate and says, well, I sent you down a once in 100-year, epidemic or pandemic, and how did you behave? I stuck my head in the sand, you can't tell me what to do. I get rights. I say, God or whoever, I hope they say, we got a place for you down there. It's a little hot, but, later. I gave you common sense. Doesn't the word epidemic or pandemic scare you? It scares me, not irrationally, but,
Well, here in Korea, masks were a thing before there was COVID. So it's much easier for, the pride of people to be vanquished because they know it's a real problem. So, here's my mask that was in my pocket anyway, so I'm just going to wear it even more so. There is a lot of common sense that people, I see what you're saying, especially more so in America, from my perspective, being Canadian. It's but I have friends in Canada that would probably have the same idea. It's these are my rights. I don't have to. I know, I understand, but there's common sense too. Cover your mouth when you're coughing, sneezing, and when you're in a big crowd. It's probably a good idea to have.
I just want to say this. My mother, she taught me a few things. She was really big on manners, please and thank yous. And in the real life, somebody says please to me or whatever, I try to do it. Somebody tells me to do something, they don't say please, I give them the middle finger in my mind, the metaphorical. But, one of the things she wanted me to do is be clean, use deodorant, and wash your hands. I wash my hands after I use the bathroom everywhere. It's not even a thought not to. Man, if you're listening out there, I don't know, women, most guys don't. They just don't wash their hands out here. It's free water. The soap, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's a toilet or a urinal. There it is.
There's
And these
water.
guys, and it's not always the guys you think, the ones that don't wear the mask that, look like they, don't wash their hands. They probably don't, but it's also guys dressed up in suits,
Yep,
and from what I
absolutely.
hear, doctors and things don't either. There's just a lot of guys. I don't know what's wrong with them. Wash your hands. What are you, gross, man? You got to put your hand on that handle as I leave. I'm a little bit of I'm not a total germaphobe, but I don't want to touch that door handle after you just been using the bathroom and didn't wash your hands. The guys that like are on the cell phones while they're on the toilet, it's like, you're so gross. I don't know.
It's a strange world we live.
Yeah.
I know that for certain. Now, Robert, what advice would you have for, it's not for inventors in particular, but just people in work, in your life experience of your work ethic, what advice would you have for people who are discouraged and not even, they have a job, I just don't want to go to work today. Like, why do I have to work? Why should I work? What is your advice to people who are behind the 8 ball in life and feel like the world's against them, but they're realizing a little bit that they need to work? What advice do you have for them?
I would encourage them to try to find a job that makes them happy, even if they don't get paid very much. Cause I think that's, like we mentioned earlier, that's going to make all the difference. If you look up, I can't wait to go to work today. It doesn't matter what I think I mentioned before on Fiverr, and I want to mention that I actually own some stock in Fiverr. Okay. So just to put it out there, that's how much I believe in it, but you can actually start your own little business on it.
Is this Fiverr like to drop a fiver, like a $5 bill? Is that the idea?
Fiverr.com. And like I said, I've used it for years and years and love it. But like, let's say you can't find a job or you're behind the 8 ball and you hate your job. Well, what you can do is you can say, well, you know what I'd really like to do? I'd really like to read, give people advice on their websites or whatever. Okay, you can start that. You get your own little place and it's free. And you can say, look, I will rate your websites or your podcasts or whatever, and $5 for this. And you can try it out and see if people are really into it. It's a way of testing something without like starting an actual business. And then if you start to say, hey, I really like this and I'm starting to get some reviews and it's starting to work, maybe I can turn this into a full-time business. But I think the idea or the goal should always be to do what you love for a living. I mean, and if you're not, then, listen to the Invention Stories podcast and, there's a cheap shot. And, be inspired by others, because a lot of people have been in your shoes. They hate their job. I think most people don't even like their jobs, but they see bills and, I had the fortunate, I didn't think so at the time, but when I was 16 and I was living on my own, I didn't have any money for food once. I didn't, top ramen. I don't know if they sell it there, but
This is
it was
Korea.
10.
This is where ramen comes from. Ramyeon.
It was 10 cents. I didn't have 10 cents. I literally didn't have any money and I was hungry because I didn't understand it. And that was really like the wake up moment that, you know what, I need to get a credit card or something, and I need to have a backup plan and a plan A and plan B. And that's why the first half of my life, when there was 2 options, I'd always choose the cheap option. I need to save. I need to, I'm afraid of running out of money, of being hungry, of being homeless, like I want to get ahead of my bills. And if you can get in a position where you can save money, save 20 cents of each dollar and, invest it in stock. Or if you get a 401k for a business, make sure you max it out and do what you can.
Well, Robert, I like what you're doing in your I like what you did in your whole life, but the second part of your life seems like you're living what you want to do and you're enjoying what you want to do. And I'm very glad for you. Is there a way that people can reach you, can contact you if they so are inclined?
Absolutely. You can reach me at inventionsstoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can go on inventionstories.com and, you can read the stories, but there's a guest book that I had somebody create on Fiverr, and you can tell them, a little bit about who you are and what you are. But it's for inventors. But I'm always I'm always answering emails. I like emails when people are genuine, not that they're just trying to sell you something, but hey, I heard you on whatever, and you know what, I like it when they compliment me, and that's nice and all, but you know what I really like is when they dog me out, talk a little smack, a little trash. They're like, I listen to your show and it sucked. You know what? That's when really know you made it, when people are like, yeah, and I'm like, all right, I get that, because with your buddies and you goof on each other and stuff, but yeah, somebody spent the time to goof on me or tell me I suck, right on.
Robert, is there anything else that you would like to add, whether work related or just something that's on your mind about work?
Can't think of anything, Brian. I think we exhausted everything. But
In
thank you for
closing,
having
then,
me.
no, in closing, why do you work, Robert? Why do you work?
I work so I don't have to worry about what I, running out of money before I die. I work well, I love what I do, so I don't think that I don't really work, I guess. It's a mindset, you don't want to work. You just want to do what you love. It's like, I think I think that's the goal, and that's where you should all try to be is at that place where you're earning a living, but you're not really working. It's like playing guitar. They say, hey, you practice guitar. You know what? I never practice guitar. I hate practicing. I like playing. I play my guitar. I never practice. I just play it, and it's the same thing, it's like practice. It's like going to work. Oh, you're not working, man. You're just earning money doing something you love.
Living.
That's the goal. You got to get there.
Living.
I'm not selling you anything, so but it's something that's people have always told me my whole life. I remember, growing up in the early 70s, and they'd say, follow your bliss. I didn't even know what they were talking about. And I wish I had asked somebody and figure out who you are and what you love. What is it you love? Try to make money doing that. You love watching football. You love watching the Dallas Cowboys. Fine. See if you can find a job doing something around that. Whatever you love, just, follow it and believe in it. Even if it doesn't pay off in the beginning, it'll, maybe you'll need a second job doing something you hate so that you can continue doing something you love, but never stop trying to reach the goal of do what you love.
Perfect. Robert Bear, I appreciate you and your invention stories, and maybe one day we'll talk again. I appreciate your time. I know you are busy, and I truly appreciate what you've done here.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you later.